Then second, if these persons had read a few contemporary textbooks on psychology, they would not have asserted that these arguments merely repeat Greek skepticism. That they overlap is no doubt true, but 20th century psychology adds details that the Greeks never thought of. Permit me, therefore, to mention just a few of the difficulties which, in my opinion, empiricism cannot handle. Now, I must ask for your patience, but the refutation of opposing theories is a preliminary to the establishment of my own view. And really, that ought to be the method anybody takes. Now, since empiricism seems to be very much common sense and people accept it unthinkingly, I want to spend a little time refuting the views of John Warwick Montgomery, what's his name I just mentioned a minute ago, up there in Ligonier. I don't know why I always forget his name. I remember John Warwick, but I have an awful trouble with names. I remember Carneades, of course, know him quite well, but anybody beyond antiquity I can hardly remember. I do remember World War I, though. There was a man by the name of Hindenburg, you know. Now, here are some of the arguments that I use in opposition to empiricism. One of the most interesting ones. How many of you know the drawings by Escher? How much do you get? Oh, well, good. Oh, I'm glad to see there are some artists in the class. All right, I think Escher is a perfectly good argument against John Warwick Montgomery and all empiricists. And Escher is not a Greek skeptic. He is a contemporary artist. And for the rest of you who don't know him, he has complicated the simple drawing, which nearly all of you have seen, of the stairway, and now you look at it, it seems that you're looking down on it, and then you blink your eyes and you're looking up from under it. And it flutters back and forth in front of your eyes, and you can't tell which flutter is the truth and which is false. So is experience. But Escher does it much better than the unartistic psychologists do. So if you haven't ever seen Escher's drawings, please do. I hope you have a copy of some of them in the library, do you? Those of you who raised your hands, did you see them in books here?
I wasn't raising my hand to say that I knew his artwork. I was going to make a comment.
Oh, just a minute. Well, does anybody know whether his drawings are in a book in the library? Please, somebody find out and tell me tomorrow morning. Now, what's your question?
It could be that the difference when we view it one way and then we blink our eyes, you say, and view it another way. Could it be that the difference is not a disagreement about what is actually on the page, but it's a disagreement in how we happen to conceptualize it or organize it?
Precisely, yes. And that's what happens all the time.
But then...
and hence you can't trust your senses.
But then my point is that the senses at that point are not trying to make a statement.
The senses give you two different impressions. And you're looking at the same piece of paper, if there's a piece of paper there to look at.
Yeah, but I don't suppose an empiricist would say that there are two different...
he'd have to.
No, he would have to say that that what is on the page is objective. I mean, there are empirists that obviously would not say that. But then...
An empirist would have to say that, but it's obviously false. Because you see two different things on the page.
But that's one-dimensional representation of two dimensions. If that staircase was in front of you, with your hands, you could go up and touch it and feel whether you're looking up on it or looking down.
Oh, you think the fingers are more accurate than the eyes.
Well,
I'll take that up in a minute.
Okay, in order to say that your senses deceive you, the only way you're going to be able to do that is to have one sense and the data you receive from that compared to another.
And if the two senses disagree between themselves, then what?
Usually you give precedence
To the one. To which one?
touching one way.
Oh, yes. And therefore, when you put a toothpick between your two fingers like this, you know it's two toothpicks and not one, because you feel it as two and you see it as one. And in addition to Escher, do you know what trompe-l'oeil is? Anybody know trompe-l'oeil? Those that you know, if you know Escher, you must have known enough art to know trompe-l'oeil, huh? Well, the term, of course, means a deception of the eyes, but it's a particular method of painting. And these paintings are so constructed, if you put them on the wall, a flat wall, you are quite sure that there's a recess there and you can put your hand and get it. And you see the recess. That's why it's called trompe. It deceives the eyes, yes?
To me, I guess it doesn't follow from the idea that we don't always distinguish reality properly by our senses. That reality is therefore indistinguishable.
Let me ask you this question: if a witness in a criminal case is shown to have perjured himself, how much credence do you give to the other statements he made?
Not a whole lot.
Not a whole lot, yes.
But my point is simply that...
if your eyes deceive you once, you can't believe any of it.
But then, by the very fact that we can conclude that our eyes have deceived us, implies that there are some criteria on the basis of our senses by which we can say that they are deceived.
No, not at all. You only know that you have two sensations which contradict each other and cannot be, it's out. They can't both be true. You know one is false, but you don't know which one.
But then but the fact that but we do make judgments all the time.
Yes, but we often make wrong judgments.
Right. But there are judgments about which we agree, and judgments about. I mean, every time we talk, and use language that is drawn from the.
I don't know whether we agree. I find more people who disagree with me than who agree.
Yeah, but there are things about which we agree. I'm not saying that we're always correct, but I think that there are some things that we can know on the basis of our...
But if two propositions are contradictories, they cannot both be true. And your senses give you contradictory propositions. So whichever one is false, whichever one is true, the other is false, and hence you can't trust your senses. They've committed perjury. Next fellow.
I didn't say, I studied psychology for my undergraduate work, and one of my fields of study was proprioception, which is the study of how the senses interact with one another. And there's so much evidence showing how the senses constantly deceive each other. You can set up controlled experiments, and you can just amaze people by how much your senses can deceive one another. And that's quite a growing field.
Maybe once in a while somebody agrees with me. Back there. Yeah, you. Yeah.
Why have a court system if we can't trust any witnesses? And why cross the street if we're not sure if a car is going to hit us or not?
I'm going to use that example as one of my main arguments. The court system. In fact, I used this with John Warwick Montgomery a little bit ago when we both talked to the same audience.